Hi guys, welcome to our next podcast in YarninBlak. Today I've got a really great friend on today called Julie Sanders. So Julie, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you, AJ.
Good. How you been? It's been a while to get you on and I know that you're always in a rush.
Yes, it's very, very busy and but I like that. It makes the day go quick. It makes the week go quick halfway through the year. So anyway, all good, all good.
So tell us, who are you? Where are you from?
Okay, so well, my mob, I can't identify with my mob. I do identify as Aboriginal. However, I was removed when I was born at 2 days old. And interestingly enough, I was born in Ballarat Hospital, and that's where I was removed from. And I am currently living back in Ballarat now. So it's sort of quite a bit of a journey for me at the moment. So,
Cool. Thanks for sharing that with us as well. Tell us what you do. What's your current job?
Okay, so I am currently at Federation University and my role there is Senior Consultant Indigenous Workforce. So basically my role is to the recruitment and retention of our Indigenous staff. And so whatever that means, it could be assisting people writing their resumes and assisting with submissions. It could be case management with some of our staff and referring them to external services. It could be mentoring. It's quite a diverse role, and I love it. So yeah. Very happy.
It sounds so diverse.
Yeah, and it's an area I've worked in for a long time, and I also have my own business, consulting, and I've had that for probably. Well, I've always had my own business for many, many years, but moved into consultancy about 20 years ago. A bit of a long journey to get there, and because I started my working career when I was 12 years old, because my parents were always in business. So the pull to always be in my own business has been there, and majority of my initial working career was as a hairdresser, so having my own salons, and as the body started to break down after 30 years of hairdressing, I thought, well, what can I do next? I still really enjoyed it, but decided that it was time to maybe go a little bit sideways with my career path. And so did quite a bit of study, life coaching, business coaching, TAE, started to educate myself and went more into consultancy. So I actually started working with other hairdressing salons as a consultant and helping them build their business and train staff, and it's just evolved from there. So, and this is where I am today.
A question, what's some of the biggest issues that Aboriginal people face in trying to get into employment?
Quite a lot. So firstly, especially here in Victoria, where our demographic is very young. So in the north, a majority of our demographic are in the 0 to 25, so young. And with our mature job seekers, I find that a lot of experience. However, a lot of employers have the barrier there that, they're looking for qualifications and they don't see culture. And it is changing a little bit, but they don't always see culture as a skill. So quite often that gets overlooked. And I suppose it's very hard. I know most people struggle to talk about themselves, but I think Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people do sometimes struggle a little bit more and don't want to come across, don't want to be shame or anything like that. So to actually talk about the skills and the qualities and the experience they sometimes downplay it a little bit, which can also be a bit of a barrier.
And we're seeing that in school as well. I think that I did a podcast recently with Kessos, and one of the Kessos says, Aboriginal kids sometimes struggle at show and tell at school. Bring your own, talk about it. That's happening at school, and like after school trying to get a job, that selling themselves is hard.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and try to make it, a little bit easier at the university by supporting people that get through to the interview process and making it a little bit more relaxed. One thing I found is the university's been very supportive, and we're reducing the key selection criteria and all of the recruitment processes that we have, and that's right across the board at the university. So reducing that, and so that we don't stop applicants actually applying because it just looks too overwhelming to even just apply for a role. And it's been really good because now we have a lot more applicants applying and getting through, and which is, a really positive thing.
That's good. How long have you been there for?
9 months.
Okay, cool.
I was in a similar role at La Trobe University for 5 years,
Yeah.
and but yes, now that I'm in Ballarat, I'm at Federation.
So, since you've been there, has the numbers increased in Aboriginal?
They have. My role was vacant for, I think, 12 to 18 months, and so some of the recruitment processes fell down a little bit. It was also during COVID, so it was recruitment would have been probably a little bit slower. It would have been more a focus on retention. And look, I don't claim to have got a lot more staff over the line. We've greatly increased our numbers. I just think that now it's back in the forefront of hiring managers' minds, and the recruitment processes are up and running, and I'm building those relationships internally and externally. So, and I have a lot of support across the university. So I think it was just getting everything back up and running again. But yes, it's a university that's regional, small. We've gone from 2 academics to 5, with another 2 to come on board. We've got some leadership positions coming up, and at the same time, we look at the other end of people that are wanting to just like an entry into the workforce or coming back into the workforce. So we have quite a few traineeships as well.
I like how you just said then that, because sometimes some organisations, as you'll know, do employment programs just for like bringing people in at early entry. You're talking about academics and senior staff, which you don't always see across organisations, do you?
No, and it's really important. Through the tertiary education sector, it's quite well documented that the more senior staff that we have, the more in the Indigenous space, whether they're academics or professional staff, the more students that we always seem to have as well. And that sort of goes vice versa. I mean, when we have more students, we can get more staff. So it's a bit of a, chicken and the egg type thing, which one comes first. However, it makes a big difference. And one thing I've noticed is a lot of our staff have been there for a long time. So what I mean is that they've started off at entry-level positions, coming as trainees, and we've got some of them now that have been there 6, 7, 8 years and are team leaders and moving into management type roles, which is absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, it's really good.
A question I've got for you: how do you define leadership in Aboriginal community?
Great question. I think it's very diverse. I always believe that a good leader isn't someone that has to go around telling everybody that they're a leader. I think a leader just has that aura about them, and they bring people along with them, and are happy to share the, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They don't take all of the kudos for the work that's achieved, because quite often it is a team, or a team that have completed a project. I think that they need to be empathetic and sympathetic, and meet people where they're at is probably a really good way of putting it. Meet people where they're at and bring them along for the journey, and let them know that they believe in them, and support their strengths, and don't focus on the weaknesses.
Yeah. Do you actually have any role models yourself, Aboriginal role models?
Ooh, I've had quite a few over the years. That, yes, because being recognised as stolen gen, I always tend to, and I still do, try to be really respectful and not talk when I feel like that I'm not qualified to do so. So I always do take a step back, only because I do recognise that I haven't been brought up in culture, so I try to be very respectful, and especially when it comes to protocols. So I've had some really great role models along the way that have just said, Julie, because you are respectful, we're happy for you to talk about what you do, because you do it from the right place. You're not doing it from you're there to help more people, or to bring people along with me, and do what I can, sharing my skills, learning from other people as well. So I see there's as twofold, that it's a sharing. I learn something from them, they may learn something from me. So
have you experienced racism being an Aboriginal woman?
yes, quite a bit actually, and probably more so now than ever. And I'm not saying these instances aren't directly focused at me, but they are at our beautiful culture. And I think that with everything that's happening with the voice, and also changing the date, you see a lot of negativity. Firstly, in social media, you're out and about, you might be just down the supermarket and you'll be hearing conversations, and it's sad, because a lot of times it's just people that are, not really understanding of our culture, and all they hear and see is, what's going on in Northern Territory, and, should be concentrating on fixing that instead of going through all this stuff and changing the date. And I get sick of hearing, get over it, or my family wasn't responsible for that. However, I understand that that's the place they come from. However, yes, a lot of the stuff that's still going on today isn't history that happened 200 years ago. It started 200 plus years ago. Unfortunately, the ripple effects are still occurring, and so unfortunately, racism is still part of our lives.
When you tell people that you're part of the stolen gen, because you're the same age as me, and we're both stolen gen, but my experience is when I tell people, they kind of don't believe me sometimes. Like, surely it happened years ago.
Yes.
Did you get that too?
The first thing they ask is, how old are you? When I say that I was born in the 60s, and you can work it out from there. They don't believe it, and then they are like, well, how come you don't know? How come you haven't been able to find out? And I always come from a place of sharing knowledge and my experience, and don't. I know some people do get very upset by that, but I try to come from a space of, educating people. And so I tell them about my story, and that a lot of my record is, even though I've got a lot of my adoption records now, I can't actually see the information. Pages are missing, pages are blanked out that I can't see. There's certain records that I can't access. I was born with a different birth date and name to what I grew up with. It's complex. It's quite complex. So,
do you think that people are wanting to hear these stories now? Do you think they're still?
I think that when people, and I don't share my story so that people say, "Oh, poor Julie," I feel really sorry for you. It's not about that. It's more the fact that I just want people to know that it is, still affecting so many people today. And child removal is happening at a higher rate than probably what it did when we were born. And unfortunately, it's probably going to continue for some time into the future. And I've forgotten what the question was.
That's cool. I'll ask you a different question, and the only reason is I forgot what the question was. I was so engaged with what you were saying. I can't remember what the question was. But I will ask you this question: do you think Australia is a racist country?
You know what? I think every country has an element of it. So I wouldn't like to. I love my country, so I wouldn't want to say that it has racist people here. And I think that happens in every country.
Question: when you're at school, how much Aboriginal studies did you actually learn at school?
Not much. I really, that's a long time ago, AJ. Not much. I think Australian history was very, very brief. It was more focused on Captain Cook and the arrival and everything that the early settlers achieved. But as far as it was virtually a colonial perspective. It didn't look at us in a positive light at all.
Do you think your kids have learned a lot more?
They're both in their 20s. I think that when they were going through school, it was maybe starting at the early stages. However, they both, when they started to identify, when I had the confirmation, they still struggled quite a bit. The schools didn't really know much about what they were doing and how to support them in that space. However, now seeing my partner has 2 little grandchildren, and I see what's happening in the kinder space and the primary school space now, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, the 5-year-old can do an acknowledgement of country, knows a couple of songs, can talk quite a bit about culture and what she's learned. So that makes me very proud.
Another question. Because you're at the university, and I'm just talking about your university, but are you seeing different courses or different professions but being able to embed Indigenous perspectives into their curriculum really well?
Yes, I see that. I think now where the gap is, and I think right across the tertiary sector and education sector in general, I think that it's becoming very important now. Where the gap is that we need the teachers and the facilitators and the lecturers to be able to take over the delivery and facilitation of the Indigenous content, because a lot of it because there hasn't been the academics and the teachers, or not. There has been, but of course they don't have the skills and the qualifications that are recognised at some of these tertiary education places. So it's been delivered by non-Indigenous people. However, now slowly it's starting to change. We're starting to see a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander academics coming through and moving into that space. So I think in another 10 years it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I was an Indigenous employment coordinator at one of the universities a number of years ago, and I want to know your experience, but do you find it that some of the faculties or departments still have stereotypes about Aboriginal people?
Great question. Look, at Federation, I'm actually finding it quite a bit different. A lot of work was done in the space before I commenced. A lot of the stuff had already been embedded in our living values of the university, and the work's evolving quite quickly now with a RAP and our strategies. So it's been really quite good. A lot of our buildings are already having dual names or totally just Indigenous names now, which is also fantastic. There's a lot of artwork. So the university's done quite a lot. Within the network of universities, I think there's still some universities that are behind, and there's still plenty more for us to do. But yeah, we're going in the right direction, which is good.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. You talked about your business. What do you exactly do? What do you do?
Okay, so the business is Job Shift Career Consultancy, and it has two arms, like me. It uses all of my skills and qualifications that I've gained over the years. So because I've had my own businesses and grown up in my parents' businesses over the years, I utilise my business coaching skills and can still work with businesses. So I help grow businesses and help them, sometimes with professional and personal development of their staff. It just depends on what their needs are. I've even done a little bit of, customer survey type, mystery shopper type roles as well, going into businesses and seeing what sort of service and evaluating that. Because I also have a training background, I've also built training packages for some businesses. So if there's some gaps or there's something that they want specific training in, I've trained them in that. And then the other arm of my business is career consultancy. So I am a qualified careers counsellor. So I work with, I've even done some work with some primary school students, secondary school, university, people that are looking to change their career path. So providing them with skills, going over their resume, seeing what directions and they want to go in, looking at their skills and seeing what they transfer over to, any opportunities that suit their experience. So quite often then I marry the two. So I might be working with a business and think, I've got some clients that I've been working with, or a group of job seekers that I've been teaching interview techniques to. And so I'll be like, okay, I know what that business needs, and I know what the skills are of this group that I'm working with at the moment. So I can train them up, and then I've got some job ready people for this particular business that I'm working with. So it's a big juggling act, and I've had to sort of, because I'm concentrating on the university at the moment, I'm fitting it all into one day or sometimes a little bit into the weekends and out of hours. But yeah, I love it, and I find it very fulfilling for me. And I also, even though it's not about me, I see the difference that can happen when you believe in people and you can bring out those skills and qualities and experience and get them to believe in themselves and what they have to offer an employer. So yeah, it's yeah, I love what I do.
Cool. And you're happy for me to put all your details in the bottom of my little screen later on?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
I know I'm watching the time because I know how busy you are, but I've got two final questions to kind of ask. One is, what made you want to do hairdressing to start off with?
It was just something that I'd always enjoyed doing. So, I mean, if you'd asked, well, I remember that one of the first days, and this is going back a long time ago, my first day at school when I was in prep at age 4.5, we got asked what we wanted to be, and I said that I wanted to be a ballet dancer. That never happened. Never happened. And too short and just too uncoordinated for that sort of stuff. So I suppose hairdressing was next.
Cool, cool. Last question I've got, if I could give you a magic wand and say, Julie, you can make some change within the Aboriginal political system, whatever there is, what would you do? Where would you start?
I suppose, and because I know that the impact this would have on so many people, including myself, would be that stolen gen have access to records that they need to have access to. And rather than all more barriers being put up for us to find out who our mob are and where we fit in and you know where we meet those hurdles at the moment and can't access information, for that to all fall away. Look, where do I start? There's so many things. In the work that I'm doing now, of course, for our culture to be recognised as a skill, and for people to be proud of the experience and proud of their culture, and be able to talk about it freely without worrying about discrimination and people's eyes rolling, and people being just as proud of our culture, like non-Indigenous people, and embracing it and wanting to be a part of and learn about it. So yeah, there is so much stuff. But
no, that's cool. One little final question is, what would you like people to walk away with from our conversation today?
Okay, that, you know, life doesn't have to be a straight line from A to B. It can go in, it's meant to be curvy and everything like that, and that's so that you can actually slow down and look to the left and look to the right and see what else is out there, rather than just focusing on the finishing line. And too often we look at what we want to get to, the end goal, but we forget about everything that we pick up and learn along the way. And you know, it's okay to change direction career-wise, and it's okay to change, you know, and decide that you want to pack up and move to another state, and because there's something there that you prefer. So don't lock yourself in to anything, and it's not failure when you decide that you want to change direction. It's actually a great thing. Embrace it and see it as an opportunity to change tact and go in a different direction and see what else is out there.
Cool. I want to say thank you for joining us today. I've known you for about 15 years now, I think. And one thing that I've always admired about you is, one, your strength and your honesty. And you do give stolen generations a really good, I was going to say a really good way that you explain it, because a little bit like how I do too, we want people to know how recent this stuff really is. And you have always just had that way of explaining that to people without making people feel guilty or upset. So I want to thank you for that so much. Hey guys, please, I want to say thank you to Julie. I know she's got to make that university work, so she has to go back to work. So thanks heaps, Julie.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, guys, I'll see you guys at the next podcast. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.